What is going on, guys? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to do something special. It's another special video. We're going to talk about Sadhguru's talk at the Prathima Institute of Medical Science. It's an interesting talk that has gained a lot of popularity, and it's talking about specifically intermittent fasting. A lot of people have asked me about my opinion on this video, so I'm decided to make this video here to let you know what my thoughts are on that keynote. So I'm going to go ahead and break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Quickly before I start, I'd have to let you guys know that the jump ropes are back. Please, please, please get yours while they last. You know that these bad boys sell out all the time. It's an aluminum handle for quality with an ergonomic design that's comfortable to the touch, as well as a swivel design for maximum speed at an incredibly affordable price of only $16.50. Plus an added note, it comes with the new logo design. So the bag has the new Fledge Fitness logo design for this wave of jump ropes. And if you didn't know, I pack and ship every single jump rope. Yes, it's a lot of work for me and my wife, but it is definitely worth it, and I appreciate you guys' support. So if you want to go ahead and buy the jump rope for only $16.50, the link will be in the description down below. And of course, thank you in advance for your support. Now let's go ahead and jump into this video about Sadhguru's talk at this conference. Now he's an incredibly popular Indian guru. He talks about a lot of things. He's into yoga. He's in that philosophical kind of stoic realm where he's very calm, but he has these philosophies that comes from personal experiences and experiences of others. So one thing that he was approached, one question that he was asked in this conference was, why do people accept intermittent fasting now, or why are people accepting intermittent fasting now that Western culture is accepting it or is getting closer to accepting it, when these things were being done for many thousands of years already in the culture of India, for example, with Hinduism and other religious cultures like Muslim cultures and even Christianity. But why now is it being accepted? Simply because Western culture is accepting it. And he touched on the Nobel Prize that was awarded in January of 2016 for the thorough explanation of autophagy and how it works. So then Sadhguru goes into like explanation as to why he understands, or why his personal experiences and the experiences of others that he has witnessed is lining up with science. See, that's the thing. A lot of things have to happen with personal experience first. It always has to happen with personal experience first for it to then be tested. Also, a lot of companies normally would have to have interest in providing the funding for these studies. He touched on that, saying that it would take you billions of dollars to get to this answer. And one of his answers is that you are incredibly focused and your mind works better when you're in a fasted state. There are studies that show that the brain is activated better when you are in a fasted state, simply because of epinephrine and norepinephrine increase, that fight or flight, that increases focus. So a lot of people can focus more. Some people think that that's not the case because they feel tired when they're not eating, people who do not do fasting. But that's only because their body is screaming to eat, because it's on this biological rhythm, which is your ghrelin secretion. When it goes up, it is telling you that you are hungry, and it is only telling you that you are hungry on a rhythm base. So if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you're skipping breakfast, it's gonna tell you that you're hungry because you haven't eaten breakfast, because it's used to eating breakfast. So those things, those hormone secretions are interrupting you. So that's why when you're first starting intermittent fasting, you tend to feel a little bit more lethargic. And it's only because your body is trying to tell you to do something that you're not doing. So it's uncomfortable. So there are studies out there already that talk about the focus that comes from being in a fasted state. So yes, it has cost millions of dollars to get there, not billions of dollars, but we do have studies that say this. One thing that he also talks about is the schedule that he has, which I was split between the message. I was split down the middle between that message, because one, it shows that you can be full of energy, as he has to be in 5 countries within 10 days. And he does this all the time. So yes, it shows, with intermittent fasting, you still can do all these things. Although intermittent fasting has been stigmatized to say that you have no energy when you're fasting. That isn't the case. As soon as your body adapts to this lifestyle, you have an incredible amount of energy. So that shows that level of it. That's a fallacy, that you just don't have energy because you haven't eaten. Your body's resourceful and uses your body fat as energy. But he also talked about his amount of sleep, which he says he sleeps about 2 to 3 hours. Or if he's being really lazy, he'll sleep 3 to 4 hours. That's the only thing that I don't agree with in terms of what he's talking about. I mean, I'm glad that he's bringing intermittent fasting to the forefront, because it's anytime someone talks about intermittent fasting and it gets a lot of traction and it gets a lot of eyeballs, it's good because it's letting other people know about this protocol, and it opens their minds up to giving it a try and seeing what happens. And a lot of times they give it a try and it changes their lives. So it's good that the messaging is being put out there that this thing exists and this thing can be good for you. But there are studies out there about sleep, and leptin levels are increased when you get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep consistently. They have done studies with people who have lack of sleep and studies with people who have a full night's sleep. And the ones that have a full night's sleep, their peptide YY and their leptin levels are increased and their ghrelin levels are decreased. And ghrelin is the hunger hormone, but leptin is the hormone that tells you that you are full. So it's the opposite of ghrelin. It's the anti-hormone to ghrelin. So you want to increase leptin and you want to decrease ghrelin. It isn't the same as saying, well, what if, the studies catch up and you don't have to sleep, just like the studies didn't catch up to intermittent fasting. No, the thing is, with intermittent fasting, they weren't even doing studies. We already have studies on people who sleep for a longer period of time versus people who sleep for a short period of time. Those studies are out, and there are multiple studies on that. With intermittent fasting, it's called emerging research because now they're doing multiple studies on it. And it's only because it's sparking interest, because a lot of companies have no desire to fund a study of not eating. People are racking their brains on how to make money with intermittent fasting because it's incredibly difficult. How do you figure out a way to monetize not consuming something when monetization comes from consumption? It's very, very difficult. So a lot of companies just don't have the desire to do it. And it's just very difficult when there isn't any monetary gain behind it. But the studies that do come out for intermittent fasting, when the correct methodology is in place, they're very, very positive. So the studies are catching up to these personal experiences that people are having. And he talks about how people just feel that they cannot go without eating. That is another thing that is true. You think that you cannot go without eating because you're so used to eating. You've been doing it for your entire life. You've been eating multiple times a day for your entire life. So that biological rhythm is incredibly difficult to snap. But believe it or not, it only takes about 2 weeks or so to break it. Anything can be broken within a 2 to 3 week rhythm. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be incredibly hard every once in a while. Yes, if you relapse, if you just decide, hey, you know what, today I'm going to eat, that could be detrimental because it can bring you back. That's why I always say, do not break the intermittent fasting protocol for more than 2 days in a row. Because if you do, then you're sending those signals to your body, hey, look, I'm eating again, and your ghrelin levels will start releasing more frequently throughout the day, which makes you even more hungrier, which makes it harder for you to stick to the protocol. Just think about every time you've relapsed on intermittent fasting, if you've ever done it and then stopped doing it. It always started with a meal or two that you ate outside of your eating window, and then doing it again and again and again, and then now you're in this new rhythm where you're not doing intermittent fasting anymore, and it's hard to get back into it, just as hard as it was when you first started. So yes, I definitely agree with him on that point. Anyone can stop eating multiple times a day if they want to. It isn't that they can't do it, it's that they believe that they can't do it. And that's the difference. Because once they get over that hump, once they're on the other side of the fence, they'll notice, wow, it's not that hard. Like, my body can easily do this. Another thing that I take pause in is when he says, well, if you stop eating for 8 hours after every meal, minimum, Obviously, he's saying that you should be at an empty stomach, which, I agree. There should be moments of fasting throughout the day, but he says that once you start doing that, within 6 weeks, 50% of all your illnesses and sicknesses and everything that's wrong with your body will go away, minimum, and at a maximum 90% of all of your illnesses and sicknesses will go away. So that I don't fully agree with, because that's just an open statement. Everyone is different. To put an exact number of 50% and an exact number of 90%, I wouldn't do that, only because, like I said, everyone is different. I can tell you studies and tell you what they've done, what has happened, and then of course we can take personal experiences from what other people say, and then that's an element of it. But to specifically say 50% of your illnesses and medical issues will go away minimum, and 90% maximum they'll go away within 6 weeks of doing an intermittent fasting protocol, or fasting for at least 12 hours or what have you, that I would take pause in that. But maybe that's just his way of having a more punchy line to explain that health benefits come with intermittent fasting. If he's probably just trying to get there in a polarizing way to make you pay attention and to make it make you remember it. So he says it in an aggressive way, where he says 50% and 90%. So then in your head, you're like, wow, this is amazing. 90% of my health. But it's to make you think in the right direction, to make you think about the health benefits that come with intermittent fasting. And studies have shown that even if, because this is one thing that a lot of people argue against intermittent fasting, right? One major argument against intermittent fasting is that the benefits of health are coming from the weight loss, not because of intermittent fasting, but because you are losing weight while using intermittent fasting. And you can lose weight by just being at a caloric restriction, and thus you will get the same health benefits that come from intermittent fasting. That is not true. There are multiple studies out there that do maintenance caloric intake, which means they have two groups, a control group and an intermittent fasting group. And they make sure that they're eating at maintenance level so that no one is losing weight. Not the control group, not the intermittent fasting group. But guess what? The intermittent fasting group still shows elevated signs of health. Oxidative stress is reduced. Blood pressure is reduced. Insulin sensitivity is increased. Blood flow is increased. Inflammation is reduced, simply because they are doing intermittent fasting. So it's not because of the weight loss. There are health benefits that come from intermittent fasting, where if you do intermittent fasting, you will see these health benefits regardless of weight loss. So when someone tells you, oh, you're only getting these things because of weight loss, that is absolutely not true. You're getting these things because of the mechanisms that are triggering due to the fact that you are in a fasted state. The hormonal cascade that happens because you are not eating. Those things will trigger these health benefits that you're seeing. So Sadhguru is just trying to give you a punchy line to let you think in the correct way. I get that, but I definitely understand how that can be misconstrued to think that he is giving a hard line of 50% and 90%. So that's the reason why I don't agree on that framing of how he's talking about intermittent fasting in the way it improves health. I would prefer a better framing that shows a more that is more open-ended, because of the fact that everyone's different. Some people won't see improvements because they have these underlying medical issues that require more than just fasting. Fasting is not the be-all end-all for everyone, and it's not going to heal every single thing. So we have to be realistic in that respect. So what are my final thoughts on this? I appreciate the keynote or the conference because it's bringing intermittent fasting to the forefront. And then people are smart. People are not going to just take what he said and just run with it. I feel that people will take what he said, they'll do some research, they'll look at other things, and then they'll make a decision from there. So no matter how you cut it or slice it, the fact that it's being talked about, that means that there's positivity that has come from this keynote. Regardless if he says some things that don't really align with what the studies have been showing us in terms of sleep and in terms of the 50% health healing and 90% health healing, the core essence of what he's talking about in regards to intermittent fasting does hold true. Health benefits are increasing because of intermittent fasting based on the studies that we have. And also mental focus is increased with intermittent fasting based on the studies that we have. So I hope you guys enjoyed my thought on Sadhguru's talk at the Pratima Institute of Medical Science. It was intriguing, interesting talk, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I'll go ahead and link it down in the description below so that you can go ahead and see it for yourself. And of course, I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon, and I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here. And as always, guys, I'll see you on Sunday for another FAQ. Peace.